So, Andy, we have some breaking news. Um, just came in. Scotland's largest export is no longer whiskey. It's in fact salt.
Salt.
Yeah, everybody in Glasgow is real mad right now.
Real mad.
But yeah,
Why do you say that, dear Brian?
I mean, we'll talk about more about it later. But they're all mad about Tierney going to the Arsenal. So,
There was kind of a fuss about that.
oh,
I think it's a little bit
their
hilarious.
Twitter is funny. But we'll talk about it later. Let's get into the normal swing of things. First of all, this is our first podcast. Probably going to be hopefully 2 or 3 times a year, not more than that because we don't want to bombard you with stuff. But we'll do a Premier League preview show. But first of all, how you been, Andy? How's everything going? How's your soccer life? How's everything treating you?
Pretty well. I would say soccer life is sort of a. I can't really complain because I support successful teams. Um, but I wouldn't say that Louisville City's season is off to an amazing start, or I guess we're halfway through it now. And I guess we'll really get into where the summer has been from a really perspective with
Yeah.
my team there.
Uh,
But no real like heavy like crisis mode complaints
yeah.
or anything like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think my team I bought FIFA about halfway through the season on discount because you should never buy a full priced game from EA at all. But I think my team there looks slightly better
Nice.
than the real team. Um, but I don't know. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. How about you?
That's going all right. I was in Vegas last weekend to go play video games, appropriately enough. I went with a bunch of friends back from Louisville. We're not going to talk how I did, but it was a lot of fun. I'm glad I got to see everybody. But I got back. I went to work. I've been super tired since I got back. And kind of trying to keep up with everything. It's been real busy, not just with the Arsenal, but with everybody for the most part. A couple teams notwithstanding. But yeah, soccer-wise, I haven't been able to keep up with Louisville City as much as I want because I do lift on Saturday. So if I'm not working, I'm probably sleeping through the match on Sunday because I don't get in till 3 a.m. West Coast time, which means 6 a.m. East Coast time. So I don't even wake up till after the Sunday matches start. I try to catch them when I can. I have cut lift short to do it. Seattle's looking good, though. Leverkusen had a brilliant summer. We're not going to talk much about that, but their summer was actually fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that, and they gave rumors that they might be able to produce kits for the U.S. now. And so I'll be getting my Lars Bender kit finally after, I don't know, I started supporting Leverkusen in 2008, and Lars Bender was immediately one of my favorite players. So after 11 years, I finally get a Lars Bender jersey, which makes me super happy. I would have got one in the last World Cup cycle instead of Ozil, but for some odd reason, he wasn't on the team. I don't think. Actually, he was on the team, but he wasn't a starter. No, I'm thinking 2014 was on the team. 2018, he wasn't on the team for some odd reason, even though he was played very well for Leverkusen that year. I know Germany was supposed to be stacked, but he was better than Schweini at that point, and Schweinsteiger was still somehow on the team. We're not getting into that. I do want to give our shout out, another thing this summer, our favorite MLS player is still playing for Houston. They made a lot of good moves today. Marlon's still doing real well, so hi Marlon Harrison, we're still following you. We're glad you're having a good year. It's kind of our tradition to shout out Marlon, especially when he's doing something well, and he's been playing all right recently.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not gonna say L1C4 because I don't buy into that. But gotta support the cards.
Yeah.
Current and former.
I mean, there's some current.
Also, back into a little bit more of a comfortable spot. Not really playing a whole lot of fullback anymore.
No, he's playing on the wing.
Which is good.
They've been playing him a little bit in the center at times, but for the most part, he's been playing on the wing, and he's been playing well. He hasn't started recently just because I think they've not been playing well as a whole, and they're trying to mess around with the lineup. But when he does get in, he plays well. And the last thing I want to talk about before we get into this was Louisville City's stadium. I know you weren't super happy with the name and what happened. You texted about it a little bit. I didn't really text much about it because I didn't really have a huge opinion. I did a whole lot of research. I was driving back from Vegas at that point. But yeah, you said you didn't like the. If you want to just a couple sentences, I'll go into a couple sentences and then we'll get there.
Sure. I mean, I think the main thing that my concern with the stadium naming is just kind of the whole sort of environment around the team right now is a little bit of a kind of a hangover from back-to-back titles. It sounds ridiculous and entitled to complain about the state of the team right now, but we didn't really invest much in the offseason to replace guys that left. We didn't really do much to, bring in anything new and exciting, building any momentum into moving into the new stadium. New stadium, tickets go on sale. There's been some complaints about ticket prices and everything, but when the stadium name came out, that sort of was like more or less just another of the questions of, okay, we have the premier facility in the league, hands down, one of the better facilities just in the region in general, and it's not going to just be a draw. I mean, I'd be shocked if it's purely for Louisville City, just for sports. But I think that there's going to be regional games that could be played there. There's an opportunity for maybe some postseason games at the collegiate level. There's also a good chance that there's other events like concerts and different things that could be hosted there. It should be sort of advertised and hyped as what it is, which is a premier elite facility. And I don't think that they've necessarily done a whole lot of that outside of like the hardcore Louisville City fans. Most people in Louisville don't even really know a lot of what's going on with the new stadium or why they should care or like whether it brings anything to the city or the neighborhood or anything at all, unless you're really like hardcore into Butchertown. So I just kind of thought, okay, I mean, the Lens are really good, or were really good contributors to U of L soccer, so they've shown an interest in promoting local sports. And I'm definitely grateful for their contribution. I just don't know, without knowing figures, what that looks like for the amount of money that can be invested in the team, or what that looks like for moving forward. It wasn't necessarily bad, just slightly underwhelming.
I wonder. There's two things about this. Number one, the Lens they're not poor. Obviously, they're
Right.
one of the richest families. I mean, I was doing some research on VisionWorks, which is mostly, and I'm sure the Dr. Leonard Associates, they own multiple businesses and not just VisionWorks, but their main is
Right.
VisionWorks. VisionWorks is billions and billions of dollars.
Not
And
even just local either.
no, it's Ohio, Indiana, Tennessee. I think it goes down to Texas. He owns 50 of them, of a 640. So, and they made over $1 billion, probably close to $2 billion, if not more than $2 billion last year in revenue. So you're talking about somebody that probably made 50-60 million dollars. So there could be good money. My two things, but most likely and VisionWorks also could be behind it. Maybe they don't want to have specific advertising because the Lynn family is so associated with with VisionWorks that VisionWorks is just like, here's a small pile of money, go sponsor it. The other thing is they probably gave the most money for the longest time, so maybe someone was offering very close money, but say over 3 or 4 years, and right now they're looking for long-term investment because it's not just the stadium they're trying to invest in, it's everything. So my guess is that instead of like a 5-year deal, it was a 10-year deal. So, but that being stated, I don't care what they call it. They could call it whatever they wanted. As long as it's not something like I thoroughly disagree with when it comes to like racist or homophobic or anything like that, I could care what they call it less. I mean, hell, they could call it the Tottenham Trophy Cabinet, because at least at that point it would be filled. And on that, we're going to transfer over to Premiership Talk.
Perfect transition. Maybe one day, Spurs fans. I was legitimately rooting for you in the Champions League final.
I was not.
I wanted it so bad.
I was not. I was rooting
You
for
let me down.
Manchester City. I was really rooting for Ajax and Barcelona, because then at that point everyone's headache goes away. Plus
I
Ajax,
definitely wanted to see Ajax too.
I would have loved to see Ajax beat Barcelona with their youth academy.
I just wanted to see that team play some more. It's kind of a shame that it's gotten decimated the way it has, but
It hasn't really, surprisingly enough. They still got a lot of the young players there, and plus Ziyech didn't go anywhere, which was a shock. I'm shocked. He still could move, but a lot of
Van
their.
de Beek move?
I'm sorry.
Van de Beek could still move. The window's not really closed for anywhere other than England. So.
No. Yeah, I mean, they could still move, but really they only lost Delight and De Jong, and those are both two very important players, but, I mean, they're still going to be fun to watch, even in the Champions League, and they still could beat, I don't know, Chelsea, along with other teams, which we'll get into Chelsea in a little bit. But I think we should start off with your Manchester United.
Should we?
Yeah, let me, I'm going to talk to a little story. I was talking to somebody when I went down to LA, was drinking some beers, and was talking to somebody about Arsenal's ownership. And I thought Arsenal had the worst ownership. And the guy turned to me and said, "Hey, Charlie." I'm like, "No, no, my name's Brian." He goes, "No, Charlie." I'm like, "No, my name's Brian." He goes, "Why do you think Arsenal has the worst ownership?" I'm like, "Because they have no sort of." I'm like, "Okay, fine, I'm Charlie now," but um, they have the worst ownership because the Cronkies haven't really invested both energy or money. It could be either one. It's nice to have that. And Manchester United, at least the Glazers look like they're trying. I'm not saying they're actually trying. And that was like a month ago. I don't remember when I saw Arsenal, but it was about a month ago. Um,
A lot's changed.
yeah, and then within 2 weeks we had Pepe rumors, Tierney was getting finalized, just everything. And with United, you mean not a whole lot changed. I really feel sorry for you. I mean, obviously my story is actually fake, just because the Charlie thing. But this was a I was listening to Ars blog, and they were talking about the Glazers versus the Cronkies, and I was watching people online, Spurs fan or not Spurs, United fans in Arsenal, and that's kind of where they go. I'm gonna let you take it away, but I kind of wanted to get my funny story in there. So
It was good. I actually might follow up on that coming back because I think that there's a little bit to still talk about with the Cronkies of just how the summer's gone. But for the Glazers, I think what it really boils down to is that it's a business and not a football club. And in general, they do a great job of running the business, and the revenue streams are unreal. It is absurd the amount of money that's brought in for the team, and the amount of money that's spent on wages
absolutely,
and transfer fees sort of actually pales in comparison to the amount of money that just goes into their pockets
absolutely.
or towards a debt. Um, so it's kind of funny when the conversation turns to look at all the money that's spent by Manchester United. But if you really looked at everything from a percentage of income, it leaves a lot to be desired. Not just that, but how it's spent. It's kind of amazing what the wage structure looks like right now. But realistically, I think the ownership could be worse, maybe. Um, I definitely think that Newcastle has the title for the
Absolutely.
worst ownership in England,
Well,
um,
except for Bury.
at least
Uh,
in the Premier League. At
yeah,
least
the
in the
Premier
Premier
League.
League.
Yes, I was just say Bury is the
Uh,
worst ownership, but they're
yeah,
yeah, but that's a different story. But yes,
but
keep going. I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah, I'm very displeased with the way that they've run things, mainly because they've just continued this sort of dictatorship of Ed Woodward running the whole business.
Yeah,
When it's very clear that we need more. And there's all kinds of money. Obviously, there's plenty of money to invest in the front office staff and more backroom staff for the sporting side of the team. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me why money goes where it goes. Why we have a new noodle sponsor, that's the main joke, every other week, and can't really announce any other signings happening. But I guess it is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that this is going to be the way that the team is run until that ownership is gone. So it is, we have what we have, and it's kind of up to Ole to work some magic with what he's given. Which, to be totally honest with you, I don't think is a whole lot right now. But that is what it is. I think going into this season, the main thing I can look at is we had that 11 game unbeaten streak run where I believe we were first in the table during that period, and then from Ole being signed as the temporary manager to the end of the season, even including the period after he was announced as the permanent manager, where we just fell off a cliff, we were still top four for the period that Ole was in charge. But that said, I really think that that's heavily influenced by the period of time where we just had the honeymoon period and everything just seemed to click. I don't know if that happens this season, to be honest with you. It's there's a lot of question marks that weren't really answered. Again, that goes back to the Glazers. There's a lot of sort of same old same with the team, where there's I'm a supporter of anybody who's willing to put on the shirt and try hard, and I think that it's embarrassing what most of the fans on social media or around the world would have to say about Ashley Young. But the fact of the matter is that there are a lot of players on the team that would probably not start for any other team remotely competing for positions or trophies that we are trying to, or say we're trying to compete for. And we just can't win that way. It's just plain and simple.
Yeah, it's like us
So
and Mustafi.
yeah,
Mustafi shouldn't be starting for Arsenal, but that doesn't mean people have to boo him during friendlies and things like that. So, I think Ash Young is the same way.
yeah, he
Ash,
got booed really
did he really?
this
God,
summer.
our fans are the
Yep,
worst. I make
every
fun.
touch.
I make fun of other fan groups, but Arsenal and Manchester United just like they're human beings. Don't go and threaten them on their Instagrams. Don't go and
Exactly.
tweet at them. Oh my god, I got in an argument with somebody with Arsenal America about Theo Walcott a couple years ago. He was like, "I hope you never start for the club again." And he was one of the board members in Arsenal America, and I just let into him. I've not. I'm not going to go way too deep, but I haven't really been involved with Arsenal America since then. Even though I was a big supporter of them, once I saw that, I was like, "Yeah, we're done. You're not. I'm done with you all because you let this dude in." He actually quit like 2 days later, so that might have been part of the reason he quit. But that's not the point.
Maybe
Um,
you ran him off.
I do have some questions about your depth and like you all don't have an out and out number 9. I know you can play Marshall up there. I know you can play Radford up there, but and I know what I was listening to BBC 5 today, just because they or no BBC 1. I was listening to no it was 5 BBC 5 today, just because I wanted to hear transfer stuff while I was working, and the couple commentators are talking about how United doesn't need a central forward, but at times there's going to be people who are going to bunker in, who are going to do well against you, and without a pure number 9, it's going to be hard to break those teams down.
Yeah, I think that there was value to if the rumored deals. I'm not much into
Yeah.
not much for transfer rumors, but if a transfer out hadn't worked out for Lukaku, I think there would have been value to keeping him around. Um, Probably even starting at least a portion of the games, depending on what the strategy was going to need to be, what tactics were going to need to be against specific teams, because there's just a lot of difference to a lot of variation to how teams play you in the Premier League. It's I mean everybody sort of has the same like approach of I'm going up against whatever Big Six team. This is our like big game of the season. We're going to play our best game. Everybody does that.
Mm-hmm.
But trying to play against a team that's maybe mid-table that will attack and bring the ball forward, um, we can afford to play the way that Ole wants to play. But honestly, the way that I want the team to play, and I'm excited about it, um, is playing more pressure and counter, and sort of quick build up. But I don't think that the team that we saw last year ever really showed an ability to handle uh, teams that bunker in, not even park the bus, just sit behind the ball, stay compact, are disciplined defensively, and don't put numbers forward. We don't break them down. We haven't broken them down. Van Hall tried to establish this like possession, put numbers forward and slowly pick apart a defense. We didn't have the personnel to play that way. Mourinho comes in and he just wants to do all defense, and his way of defending is his way of possession is more for a defensive purpose than it is for attacking. Um, but it was slow as well, and we've got all these quick players that do seem to thrive at least a little bit in a quick counter-attacking team, and they work very hard. And there's a lot of skilled players, but no one is really capable, Lukaku included, actually, um, of really providing what's needed against a team that will sit in the box and make you cross over them. Or,
There
you
is
know,
one player on that team that can do that, but he I don't know if he's still capable of that. That's Alexis Sanchez. When he played for Arsenal,
Yeah.
he was absolutely capable. He played the 9. He broke down teams that bunkered in, but he hasn't shown. It's not even like he didn't show it with Manchester United. Yeah, he didn't show it the last year and a half at Manchester United, but he hasn't showed it in like in almost 2.5 years. I mean, that last 6 months at Arsenal, he was not great, and even that the 6 months prior, he looked tired at times.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that I might be the one. I'm on the high end of people as far as an opinion of Alexis Sanchez, mainly because most of his footballing brain and sense of reading the game is still there and has been present every time that he's played for us. I don't think that the whole problem is him losing his legs. He's obviously a step slower. He doesn't have the explosiveness. He doesn't really have the kind of like he doesn't scare anyone when he's on the ball like he used to. And that's okay. But basically he's sort of done a Rooney. I think that he has the capability of, like Rooney, adapting his game to serve a different role. And I'm actually a little bit pleased that he hasn't gone somewhere in some bogus like we'll pay all his wages, just take him away loan deal, or like send him to China, and have it be just a total failure. I don't think that there's value in repeatedly offloading all of the guys that you try to bring in. I think that there's value in trying to make it work, and no one's talking about him. I think if anything, the fact that just no one's talking about him, everybody's written him off. There's a decent chance that maybe that'll be motivating for him. And I think that defensively, he fits perfectly with Ole's system, and he got hurt last season. He got hurt again this summer. I don't know if he's going to stay healthy, but at least for a system fit, he's perfect. And I think that if there's anybody in the team that offers something that none of the other players do, his vision, his passing, maybe a little bit questionable at times, but I think that's more on the fact that he just takes more risks than everybody else. He's set up a lot of really great scoring chances, even for United. He's just needed somebody on the end of them, and basically it's only been Pogba. We need to get more out of the movement around him. If he's played centrally as the 10 or as the 9, I think that he'll be able to contribute a lot more. Pogba's going to play deeper anyway, and I think that just the fact that we had a whole 6 months of Martial, Sanchez, and Pogba all parked in the left third of the attacking third was just a disaster and didn't work for any of them. It showed in Martial's numbers, it showed in Sanchez's numbers, and Pogba's numbers are really only that good because he got 8 penalties. So,
Well, and Sanchez's problem has always been in his own head. He's kind of selfish, and I don't mean that in he doesn't like to pass the ball, but he has.
That's a good thing in some ways.
Yeah, no, it's why some of the goals he scores are absolute world class. I mean, he's got some of the best goals I've ever seen. That when all he had to do I think it was Aston Villa, when all he had to do was carry the ball around the Aston Villa's keeper, and he backheels it through. He backheeled it. Off his back heel on stride through the keeper, nutmeg the keeper to get around him, and then just jolted in and scored. Was absolutely brilliant. Did he have to do that? No, he could have just easily carried around the keeper and scored. But that's how Sanchez has always been. He's always been this guy that he scores these world class goals. But one of the biggest aspects of his game, and one of the things that makes people absolutely would infuriate Özil, which I know at times Sanchez was more important to Arsenal than Özil a lot of times, but Özil would be in this great position outside the box, pass it to Sanchez. Sanchez would dribble in the box, create space. Özil would find a window of space and have the pass already picked out or the goal already scored in his mind. So all he had to do was pass it to Özil and it would go in the back there. And Sanchez would be like, okay, I got to score this curler. And sometimes it would work, and sometimes it wouldn't. And I still think he still kind of suffers from that. I'm going to transition just a little bit to Ural's midfield. Ural's midfield is very thin and kind of... It's getting, I don't know, is it old or is it just not, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like the quality.
It's young.
But
that's definitely the weak point of the team.
Like, in Dembele would have been a perfect purchase for you all. Like that would have been the perfect purchase for you all because that would have solidified the midfield. Would have replaced Fellaini if you want, or more like it, Herrera. And just like I can't believe you all didn't outdo Spurs from because you have more money and you have or to throw at him and the team. And I just cannot believe you all didn't go and get Dembele.
I don't know whether the difference or whether the problem, how to explain that is that he wasn't on the list of players that was wanted, or if it's just the ownership and the board are just inept and just don't care enough to make the signings required. I don't believe that they really need to invest that much. I know that if they're going to spend big, they have to bring in somebody that they think can sell shirts, and that's not one that can. So I don't think that we were ever gonna be in for that just for that perspective of where the value lies. I think that actually I'm very happy with the signings that were brought in, but I just don't think that there were enough of them, and we desperately needed midfielders. We needed a midfielder when Herrera was still here, and Fellaini's he's never really been a midfielder. Actually, I think that the right replacement for Fellaini, if we were talking about what have been rumored, would have been Mandzukic, just to have somebody that can get in the box and fight off a defender for a header. That's really where his value was. Fellaini was more of a striker for us than he was a midfielder.
That explains your shirt explains the entrance, which I think there was a little bit of interest. I think you all just reached out and said, "Hey, Arsenal, is Aubameyang available?" And there were like 125. It was like the fee we would have put without have been there would have been insane, and nobody in their right mind would have paid it. Even Manchester United.
I would have paid it.
But
I would have paid it.
Well, I know you would have, but Aubameyang also didn't want to leave. He was not interested in leaving Arsenal because he loves London. He loves Arsenal. One of his best friends is Lacazette. He loves the fact that he's got Niakate that he's training to be a striker. He loves the fact that, not to get too far into Arsenal, but that's why he didn't want to leave. It has nothing to do with money or anything. It has everything to do with if Real Madrid or Barcelona came, he would probably say no to Barca. Maybe not Real Madrid because Real Madrid was his dream club at one point. But I think he was a United fan growing up. Not a huge one. I think he was more of a Real Madrid fan, but I think he did have some sort of allegiance towards United. But at this point, I heard that, and that explains why you specifically, when there are younger strikers, maybe not better strikers, but younger strikers who could maybe better fulfill the void that you all have currently at 9. So that makes sense for that policy. Sorry, I'm just trying to work it out in my head.
No. I just think that realistically, there's a lot of guys that we could have. The list of people that could improve United, just in the top, like 5 leagues in Europe is like at least 100. It's at least 100 players.
Why didn't you all cash out on De
Gea? Realistically, I'm not sure that that's gonna happen.
PSG was interested this year, and
and
I mean, you would have had to cut rate price because he's free at the next year, and Juve wants him, and he's basically already signed the contract with Juventus. So I'm just surprised you all, or maybe even like did a Lukaku, De Gea, 100 million combo, and then or maybe got Mandzukic back, and then you still got the 70 that you got from Inter Milan. You would have got a player in return, and then maybe gone after somebody like this is a name that probably everyone's like, I can't believe you would say it, but Andre Blake would be a perfect example of somebody that United could get on the cheap that would actually probably fit in. I don't know why no one's gone in for Andre Blake, by the way. That is insane. Like, not even like,
could be just a work permit issue.
Maybe.
I mean,
I don't know. He's
the big thing with with Dave. I think he's a little bit. I don't know if I want to say he's regressed. Because he's really only had half of a bad season.
Well, I do think that he's not always the best in possession. He's not always the best in the air. But what he's always been the best at is shot saving, and his distribution's always been good. But I think
his distribution's lacked in recent seasons because Mourinho's just said lump it up to Lukaku.
Yeah,
that's all I've really done.
He's been kind of exposed in a way. Recently, he's not as good as Oblak, which I think when Dave leaves, that's the first person you all should call. I think Oblak's been a better keeper. I thought Dave had a year where he was the best keeper when Neuer was kind of hurt, and I still think Dave's I think Bernd Leno is a better keeper than Neuer. I think and whoever Dortmund has right now, I can't remember his name, is better than Neuer. So that's not a comment on that, but Neuer was the best keeper in the world. I think 2016. I think 2017, I thought Dave was the best keeper, and then, or maybe it was 16, and then I thought Oblak overtook him for a minute, and then now I think it's Ter Stegen. That's my opinion. I think Ter Stegen
Could be.
is just miles above everybody, and then I thought Courtois has been on the same level as De Gea, and some seasons he's been better than De Gea.
But I think he's been shaky at times. So I mean, okay, so Oblak, if we're talking, so let's say we're talking transfers that are just, let's use FIFA as an example.
Yeah.
You can make anything happen. It's the easiest game in the world. It's not a challenge. It's not even fun to like try and rebuild United because in one window you can do it.
Yeah.
In one window, and there's really not even like. It's not a challenge with restrictions to wages or for transfer fees because you can just swap players. And ideally, like, I think that instead of Real Madrid, the ideal destination for Dave would have been to go back with Atletico when they had a better team than they have now. Maybe they're building something. They've done a lot. They've been real ambitious.
Not every transfer has worked out.
Who knows?
See Thomas Lemar. Thank God Arsenal didn't purchase him. Oh my God.
Well, there's been a time or two that I wouldn't have turned him down, but
we had $100 million agreement for him. £100 million.
There's at least three or four players currently in that team that I would take at United right now that would instantly start and improve the team. Instantly.
We both take Koke on our teams.
I'll take Thomas Partey on my team as well.
Oh, he's fantastic.
I don't understand why that one's not been snapped up. I get Koke because he's never going to go anywhere. But
I take their entire back line though, just their entire back line. I love Bellerin, I like Tierney, but just give me their entire back line, and I'm the happiest human being alive. At Arsenal.
Do you think? Well, you're missing on. I really think Luka Hernandez was one of the better ones there. And that's a weird one that he went to Bayern, but I think that the ideal swap move would have been for Dave plus cash to go to Atletico and bring in Oblak.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to ever happen. I really don't. I've heard rumblings that Dave's signed an extension, but they've been waiting for the transfer window to get beyond things and then have something of new and positive news to announce. So
would that be?
I guess we'll watch over the next week.
Would that be with a guarantee of a transfer? Because I know he's not the happiest person in the world right now.
I think that's really evident on the pitch. There's multiple times that I turned to whoever I was watching the game with, or just in a casual conversation with the family when we've been talking about it. It's sort of the same topics every time we get together for dinner. Somebody brings up United, but I think that's been the main thing that was my takeaway during the portion of the season that was so bad. It seemed I don't want to like accuse him of shipping goals. At the time, in the heat of the moment, I definitely said that on a couple of occasions, and maybe that did happen. I'm not saying it's not possible.
Yeah.
I do think that there were so many goals that the balls went in the back of the net.
Yeah.
That I've seen him make that save.
Absolutely.
Every time, and he consistently didn't for like a 3-month period, and I just don't know what happened. Either he got in his own head and just tanked, and he just needed a summer off to like refresh, or he might not be in it. I don't know. I really don't know.
I do have a question about him. Is his mental fortitude used to be fantastic, but when you're constantly seeing your defenders letting goals or letting them in positions where he has no chance to stop goals, and then say he makes a mistake one day. Like, how often did he give these goals where Manchester United was already down a goal, or he let in a goal earlier that he had no control over because Eric Bailly or
did he play?
That's about the point. But Phil Jones or Chris Smalling or Rojo did something dumb, and he just got so in his own head because that happens to keepers. It happened to Lehmann. Now that was later in Lehmann's career, but it did happen to Lehmann. And Lehmann was not quite. He was never a top. I guess he was top 5, but he was never a top 3 goalkeeper in the world. And so, And so I wonder if that was part of it. It was he let in a couple bad goals, or he got a couple goals where he just couldn't do anything, and then bad goals would follow because he's just so frustrated with everything.
I think most of the time when he gave up goals, it didn't really make sense for who he was and what,
Yeah.
like at least at his peak and in form.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the time, we were already down.
Yeah.
I don't know the stats to back that up. I just, from memory, there were a lot of games, a whole lot of games, where we conceded because of some dumb crap that Phil Jones did or something.
Sorry.
And yeah, do you know that Phil Jones and Chris Smalling are known? They're affectionately, I guess, known as the Chuckle Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, the Chuckle Brothers not starting this season may be part of why I'm willing to give Dave another chance of seeing that maybe that was just a temporary thing. But when you are looking at a deficit and it's just every week your team's not scoring the first goal, I guess I could sort of get where you're just like, why are these guys just continuing to let every team that we play get into the box and get chances on my net? It doesn't make sense. I'm better than this, I think is a fair statement for him to think. And I kind of understand. I don't necessarily think that it's the most professional thing to do, but I kind of understand if you were just over it, contracts coming up, there's a lot of question marks about what your future is, and the season's obviously kind of gone down the drain. And, what's this save going to do?
Yeah.
I guess I can't really blame him for at least maybe that coming into play. I don't know if it's professional, but still, I don't know how much of that was just that, or he just really fell apart mentally.
Well,
there were some times he looked disappointed in himself, and there was times that he looked like he was trying to look disappointed in himself. So I don't know.
I'm gonna stop you there. We've been going on for about a half hour about United, which I know. It's just, I know you have a lot to say, and there's a whole lot more you could talk about. There's a whole lot, but I think it's time to talk about the other of our two clubs, the Arsenal.
Sure.
And this is a good summer for Arsenal. Like, just a really, really good summer. There's a lot of things that happened, and a lot of really good things that happened behind the scenes that we haven't gone, that we don't know about because we redid things. And honestly, I'm going to start back in October of last year. In October of last year, this is after our big Raul Sierra and everybody else had kind of been running the club. Our chief executive, Ivan Gazidis, left the club, and he went to AC Milan. And if you look in the things that have happened since then, the bad contracts, the bad advertisement deals, Ivan Gazidis was at the center of that. And honestly, he left Arsenal for AC Milan, and since then Arsenal's been on the up and up. And honestly, I mean, who in their right mind would support Ed Woodward and Ivan Gazidis running their teams? I mean, that poor soul. I mean, I would feel so bad for that human being. Sorry. Hi, Jason.
He's talking about our good friend Jason.
Yeah. Hi, Jason. So Gazidis, getting rid of Gazidis was a huge deal. And I'm going to talk about things that are not transfer for the first, 5-10 minutes. But, what he did was he was looking for the quickest money possible. So he would settle for the Puma deal we could have got more for. There was other deals that we could have got more for, but he was just trying to get as much money as possible, as quickly as possible, without really negotiating as much as he can. So a lot of the deals that we have on the table, or that we're still dealing with, are just not good deals. People make fun of the Visit Rwanda deal, but that is one of the healthiest deals that we have. It's millions of dollars for a shirt sleeve sponsor. It's top, I think, 5 in Europe, and it's a decent length of time. It's not like 20 years, which I'm going to get into later about the 20-year deals. But it's between 5 and 10 years, and it's one of the best shirt deals ever. And we're telling people to go to Rwanda, but it's a great deal. And that was not negotiated by Ivan Gazidis. That was negotiated by the team that he set up. And so we have all these bad deals. And then we have these bad contracts, like Henrik Mkhitaryan, who we cannot wait to ship. Mesut Ozil to extent, though we needed, that one was kind of forced upon us. There's that we're trying to get off, and it's just hard to cope until we get rid of those. I mean, it looks like we signed Lacazette and Aubameyang to a new deal, but I'm hoping they're only 2 or 3 years long, because Aubameyang's 29, Lacazette's 30, and how long can a striker play at a top level, especially like an Aubameyang, more so than Lacazette? with that kind of deals. But it seems like they're making smarter deals now that Gazidis is out of the club. He was kind of like an Ed Woodward to an extent, where everything he did just kind of backfired because he didn't exactly know what he wanted to do, which is kind of weird because the MLS has not been the same since he left. The MLS group leaps and bounds for the first 2 or 3 years after he left, but that was because of what he did. And it's kind of weird that he came to Arsenal, and yeah, it looked like we were getting good deals, but then you looked at what Tottenham got, and you got to look at what Chelsea got, and just 2 other London clubs, or even Liverpool or United and City. You look at the kind of deals that they got, and they were getting better deals than Arsenal. But Arsenal was getting our money quicker. So it'd be like, oh yeah, we make more money than everybody else, but we're trapped into a 7-year deal with a shirt sponsor, and they're paying us less. And the Emirates deal now is actually significantly better, but it's also and it's for a shorter time. So Emirates came in and said, we want you to sign a shorter deal with more money because we want to renegotiate. Maybe we don't get the deal, but we want, since our name is on the stadium, we still want a winning product to be on the field. So Emirates was the one that negotiated a better deal for us in that situation. But it's just like everything. The Citroen deal, which is our car manufacturer, is not a great deal for us. The Carlsbad deal, which is our beer, which is our mass-produced beer, is not a good deal. I mean, it's just they're just not good deals, and Gazidis is the one behind all of these deals, and so it's going to be interesting to see what going forward when we get better advertisement deals, when we have more healthy money in it. Like, he didn't negotiate the new kit sponsor deal or anything like that, and now you can see, like, Jason was complaining about the defense at AC Milan, and he's very much a stats guy, which is fine if you're using good stats, but outside of the Cronkies, the biggest believer in stats at the club and Stats DNA was Ivan Gazidis, and I guarantee you they're at least taking Stats DNA into consideration at AC Milan right now, which is not a good decision. I know as long as no one could find the old podcast. I know when we got Mustafi, I was totally against it. I'd never said a good word about it. And if you listen to the old podcast, just don't listen to the old podcast. I would never have said anything nice about Mustafi. No, I was totally for that deal. Mustafi looked great. But he was £40 million, and Stats DNA, they still think he's one of the best center backs in Europe, like top 10 in Europe, and he's clearly not one of the top 50 in Europe. He's just not a good center back. But their research showed that the $40 million we're paying was a deal, like was a considerable deal, and we 1 second, sorry.